Hey, this is Joseph with GreenFlux. So today a question came up in the forums about validating user input and only wanting letters or spaces. That's pretty easy to do. It's kind of a long, ugly expression with a bunch of nested substitutes. And you just swap out individual letters for empty string, just for two quotes there with nothing else in it. And after you've gone through every single letter and spaces, here you can see that we're swapping out a space for nothing, and so there should be nothing left, and the length is 0. And then to do hyphens and underscores, that's pretty easy. We just added that off to the end here. But I couldn't get apostrophes. The editor won't let you type an apostrophe as the character you're trying to filter out. It interprets that as starting a text string, and then it cancels out all this stuff and it thinks it's text, and there's just no way to do it. So the substitute method won't work in order to validate text when you want to allow an apostrophe but not allow other characters. So I found another approach, and I created a table of EnumLists, and so there's a name for each one, so I can reference it and look it up by name. And then the special character that's the problem there is it's in the list. And so I'm creating a virtual column, a split list, by splitting the list by commas here. And so with this split list now, I'm also displaying the count just as a check. So this one's 26 plus 0 through 9, 36, and then a couple more characters get you to 39. So it's just confirmation there that my split was working. And so I've got this list from the EnumList table, and then on the user input, so let's say we want to validate right here to make sure it is just A to Z or space, hyphen, and apostrophe. So for that, in text 1 here, I'm splitting that into every single character. I've limited it to 8 to keep the sample app simple. So if you had longer than 8 characters, you'd have to go all the way out here. But basically I create a list out of every character, one at a time, and then I'm going to take that list from the user input that's been split up and compare it to whatever list you want to validate off of. So I'm going to call up that list by name, which will give me this list that has that special character, the problem character that you cannot type in the editor. And so I'm going to take the split list version from text 1 that's been turned into a list of every single character, and subtract the list that I want to validate against. Now select always returns a list. Even if there's only one item in the list, it still returns a list. In this case, it's returning a list of lists, and what we need is just a list. So any will take the one item that we're expecting from here and take that list of one item and turn it into just a list so that we can do our list subtraction. And so we expect that to be 0 if they only use characters in that list, and if they type anything outside of it in the first 8 characters, then there's something extra left over after this list subtraction, and it's greater than 0. So let's check it out. I can do 8 characters, 9 is invalid, so it's only checking the first 8, so we got to stay within that. Can do a hyphen, the apostrophe's good, space, and what is that, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so it still has to stay within 8 because I'm only checking that many characters. But you can see it's allowing those couple special characters, but not others. Even though I'm under 8 characters now, it's still not allowing it because it's not the certain special allowed characters. So we keep it under 8 and only use those characters, and we're good. And then on this one, I set it up to allow letters or numbers, spaces, apostrophe, hyphen. Still has to be under 8 though. Okay. And then the other thing I did with this table is I'm using it to generate a bunch of buttons. or drop downs without having to type them all here. So for like a state drop down, you could do this 50 times and copy and paste a bunch of stuff in there. But then the next thing in your app, you've got a list of 20 things, and then the next time and the next time, and so that gets really tiresome. And so this way you can just say it's valid if it comes from that list. You know, your valid if can be yes, no, or it can be a list. And so I'm finding the one list that has that name, and remember you got to do any around it or else you get a list of lists. And so instead of having to type all that here, I've got a drop down in order, and same here for months, you know, in order, and I didn't have to type all of them in here, didn't have to type the list into the valid if, and if that value happened to contain an apostrophe, you wouldn't be able to do it at all in either. Maybe in this place. Haven't tried that actually, but you wouldn't be able to type it in here for your list. So that kind of abstracts it a layer and lets AppSheet turn it into a list for you, and then that value suddenly works. So yeah, I'm gonna post this sample app for anybody that wants to check it out. It'll allow those special characters and spaces, but it's filtering out all the other special characters and numbers, and then you can customize it just by changing the list that you're referencing here. So you can create your own list, and then in the editor you don't have that big ugly long expression. You just say the name of the list that you want to validate each column against. Alright, hope you guys enjoy it. Thanks.